Do you want to know how a man left the farm with no inheritance, no investors, no internet, and built a fortune that not only changed his life, but restructured the world economy? Then pay attention, because today I'm going to reveal the 5 simple decisions I made that anyone with a little discipline and vision can apply, no matter if you're starting from scratch, drowning in debt, or lost in the chaos of modern life. But first, a direct question. How many decisions did you make today that actually bring you closer to independence? How many were just automatic reactions? Because true wealth, the kind that brings freedom, legacy, and respect, isn't born out of luck. It's born out of good decisions, repeated consistently until the results are inevitable. And if you're here looking for a plan, a structure, a concrete path, you're in the right place. Throughout this mentoring program, you'll understand how to turn every daily choice into a productive cog in the wheel. And yes, you'll need focus, action, and to stop making excuses. Because the world doesn't reward complainers. The world rewards achievers. If this makes sense to you, stop now and subscribe to this channel. It's not just a button, it's your silent commitment to a new way of thinking. Let's do this. The first decision that changed everything was to mass produce with quality and low prices. Sounds simple? It is. But most people don't do it. When everyone else was busy building luxury carriages for the rich, I decided to produce a car that any average worker could afford. Why? Because I understood that wealth isn't in selling at a high price. It's in selling a lot, with a healthy margin and minimal costs. While others raised prices to make more profit per unit, I simplified the process, broke the products down into stages, automated everything I could, and sold for less. And you know what happened? They sold dozens. I sold millions. They served an elite. I built a middle class. Today, many people still repeat this mistake. They create businesses for the few with inflated prices and no scale. This is not productive wealth, it is survival in disguise. The efficiency of mass production allows you to generate impact, profit, and abundance at the same time, as long as you keep quality as a non-negotiable priority. The second decision was to pay high wages and never reduce them. While business leaders were shouting that raising wages was financial suicide, I doubled my workers' incomes. And you know what happened? They stopped leaving. They started working with more focus. They bought my own products. They became part of the system, not just disposable parts. This wasn't charity. It was economic intelligence. When you pay well, you attract talent, reduce turnover, increase productivity, and circulate capital within the company itself. The money comes back. It always comes back. But it takes vision. Those who see wages as a cost will never understand the power of a committed team. But understand, I'm not talking about paying well out of pity. I'm talking about paying well for results. Every penny needs to be tied to productivity. And for that, your system needs to be clear, standardized, and measurable. That's where my third decision came in. Automate and standardize for maximum efficiency. You don't build an empire by creating everything from scratch every day. You build it by documenting what works, eliminating what doesn't add value, and teaching each person on the team to execute what has already been validated to perfection. Standardization eliminates error. Automation eliminates delays. And together, they eliminate waste. When everyone knows what to do, how to do it, and why they are doing it, the company ceases to be an emotional mess and becomes a logical, predictable, scalable machine. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most companies fail because they rely too much on talent and too little on systems. I didn't want geniuses. I wanted simple men operating a genius system. And it worked. But of course, none of that would have mattered if I had done what so many do: spend profits on status. So the fourth decision was to reinvest profits back into the business. Every dollar that came in was turned into more production capacity, more efficiency, more technology, more training. No yachts, no parties. First build the foundation, then comes the comfort. Profit is the fuel for expansion, but if you spend it before it's time, you lose momentum. Many people want to reap before they sow. They want to travel before they achieve. They want to show success before they consolidate the system. This is childishness disguised as ambition. I never cashed out my company. I nurtured it until it became indestructible. And finally, perhaps the most powerful decision of all, focus on service rather than speculation. I never gambled on the stock market. I never manipulated prices. I never sold smoke and mirrors. I delivered real products with real value to real people. While others hunted for shortcuts, I built bridges. Those who focus on serving never run out of demand. Those who focus on making money lose energy when the money doesn't come. But those who focus on delivering value, they build deep roots that sustain the tree even in the storm. These 5 decisions were simple, but applied with discipline, consistency, and vision, they transformed a farm mechanic into one of the most talked about names in economic history, and you can apply each one starting today. Just decide to stop complicating things and start working. Now that you understand the 5 decisions that set my productive gears in motion, it's time to dive even deeper. Because understanding isn't enough. You have to internalize, apply, execute. This is where many people fail. They know what needs to be done, but they don't build the habit of doing it. They live trapped in information, but stagnant in action. And that, my friend, is the opposite of the industrial mindset. When I decided to mass produce, the whole world doubted me. They said it was impossible to maintain quality, that the workers wouldn't be able to handle it, that consumers would never buy something so ordinary. And that word stuck with me. Ordinary. Because what they called ordinary, I called essential. My vision was not for the top 5%. It was for the 95% who wanted to move, produce, and win. The assembly line was not created to generate luxury. It was created to generate freedom. Freedom of time, freedom of movement, freedom of choice. Every screw tightened was a step toward a world where workers were no longer slaves to their own bodies, but masters of their own destiny. And that mindset works for you too. What part of your life is still operating in a handmade, disorganized, unproductive way? Where are the bottlenecks in your day that need immediate standardization? Maybe you wake up every day without a functional routine. Maybe your business depends on improvisation, pure talent, brute force. That's not progress. That's attrition. True productivity is born when the system carries the weight, and you just steer with vision. Remember the decision to pay high salaries? It wasn't just about money. It was about respect. When you value those who produce with you, you plant dignity. And dignity is the fertilizer of excellence. A man who feels respected delivers more, complains less, stays longer, and becomes a solid foundation for your operation. But be careful. Paying well without charging well is charity, not strategy. And charity, in excess, destroys. In my day, turnover fell dramatically when we doubled salaries. But we also doubled clarity, standards, and expectations. There was no room for laziness, victimhood, or complacency. The exchange was fair. You give me your best, I give you the best. And that still holds true today. On your team, at home, in your own performance. Are you giving your best or just enough to avoid criticism? Now, about reinvesting profits. This seems simple, but it's where many fail. People have a spike in income and rush to buy a new car. They go on vacation. They buy a watch, all wrong. The first profit is not a prize, it's a seed. You plant it or you waste it. When you reinvest, you create strength. You create a foundation, you create resistance against crises. I've seen many companies go bankrupt because they confused revenue with stability. And stability only comes with disciplined reinvestment. In my case, profits were always redirected to improve machines, train people, and develop new products. I never let money sit idle. Idle money is money rotting away. Every penny needs to be producing something. And here's some practical advice. Review your last 3 months of profits right now. How much was reinvested? How much was squandered? Are you building a machine or just putting out fires? Now we get to the root of it all, service. That is the only legitimate reason for a business to exist. If you're not solving a real problem, delivering real value to real people, you're just trying to make money. And those who try to make money without serving always fail in the long run. The market may fool you for a while, but the truth wins. Out. Always. I made my fortune selling cars, and yes, but I didn't sell cars. I sold movement. I sold possibility. I sold the time people stopped wasting walking or waiting for a train. That's what they were buying, and that's what you need. To figure out what are you really delivering. Not the product, not the service, but the impact it has. Figure that out and your marketing changes. Your proposal changes. Your profits explode. Because those who focus on winning lose. But those who focus on serving win as a result. And that is the essence of true fortune. It is not born of ambition. It is born of usefulness. If you want to prosper, stop thinking about how much you want to earn, and start thinking about how much you can contribute. That is the most valuable currency in the modern world. You may be asking yourself right now, this all sounds great, but where do I start? And the answer is raw and direct. You start by stopping sabotaging yourself. Because before any financial, productive, or business decision, there's a silent decision that separates builders from dreamers. The decision to become someone you can trust. You see, an industrial system only works when every part does its job. And in the system of your life, the central part is you. If you don't keep your promises to yourself, if you shy away from difficult tasks, if you put off what you know needs to be done, you are breaking the most important link in the chain. And no machine works with internal flaws. I had a rule: if I said something would be done, I did it. Not later. Not when I felt inspired, but exactly when and how it was defined. Because the greatest luxury you can have is to trust yourself. And that is not achieved with books, videos, or good intentions. It is achieved with consistent action, every day. In the early days of the Ford Motor Company, conditions were precarious. There were no guarantees, no government support, no investors cheering us on. There was just a warehouse, a few tools, and a tired team. And yet we delivered. Day after day, because commitment was non-negotiable. While others gave up because they didn't see quick results, we doubled our efforts. And that builds reputation, and reputation builds authority, and authority builds freedom. Now think about it. How many times have you started a project and stopped halfway through? How many promises have you made to yourself and not kept? That's costly, because every time you fail yourself, your mind registers that you are not reliable. And then even your most well-intentioned decisions lose their power. Your mind starts to sabotage you because it knows you won't finish, and you enter a cycle of trying and failing. Want to break this cycle? Start with small daily commitments, and stick to them. No exceptions. Say you're going to wake up at 6 a.m.? Wake up. Promise yourself you'll save $10 today? Save it. Said, you'd study for an hour? Study. The size of the act doesn't matter. What matters is internal respect. Because a man who respects himself doesn't need motivation. He just acts. And here comes another essential key to my success. Emotional control with operational discipline. Don't confuse this with coldness. I had feelings, frustrations, fears. But I never let those emotions dominate the operation. Crying never stopped an assembly line. Fear never delayed production. Anger never fired the right operator. Emotions are normal. What is not normal is letting them make decisions for you. Today, I see many leaders being guided by impulses. They make decisions in euphoria and regret them in the emotional hangover. Worse, they transmit this instability to the team. This destroys the culture. A company is an emotional extension of its leader. If you are unstable, everything around you shakes. Now, when the leader is firm, consistent, disciplined, even in storms, the system keeps running. In practice, this means you need to establish rituals of consistency. Wake up at the same time. Make decisions based on data, not feelings. Set aside fixed time to think, plan, execute. Don't trust your emotions. Trust your process. I didn't depend on my will to work. I depended on my calendar. If it was on the schedule, it would get done. Simple as that. And speaking of simplicity, that's another truth that needs to be hammered home. Most people complicate what should be simple. Do you know why? Because complexity gives a false sense of importance. When someone doesn't get results but has a confusing system, they feel busy. And being busy gives a sense of progress. But that's a lie. Being busy doesn't mean being productive. It often means being lost. In my model, everything was simple. One task, one process, one pattern. Repeated to perfection. And you know what that generated? Profit. Because simplicity saves time, reduces errors, and increases scale. Every cog less is one less failure. And in the game of efficiency, winning means eliminating the unnecessary. Now look at your life. What are you doing that could be done with less effort, less time, less cost? What are the steps that only exist because you are afraid to decide? Where is the excess that you confuse with sophistication? Remember, a system that cannot be taught in a few words is not ready to scale. And if it's not ready to scale, it's holding you back. Your job today is not to show that you are smart. It is to show that you are functional. Because the world does not reward brilliant ideas. The world rewards consistent execution. Now let's tighten the screws even more, because you need to understand one thing. If you really want to build solid, lasting, productive wealth, then you need to abandon short-term thinking once and for all. Quick profits, easy gains, instant success. All of that is quicksand disguised as opportunity. I never worried about how much money would come in next week. I worried about how much value we were creating over the next 10 years. See, when I first set up my assembly line, the costs were high, the returns were slow, and almost no one believed it was worth it. But I saw beyond the dust. I saw the system working with precision, scale, and autonomy. I saw a structure that eliminated human error, accelerated production, and delivered an affordable product. While others counted weekly profits, I counted cycles of efficiency. And in the industrial game, the winner is the one who controls the cycle, not the one who celebrates the immediate result. Do you really want to build a business that lasts? Then start by planning for it to work without you. That's freedom. That's legacy. A business that depends on your constant presence is a job disguised as a company. And you weren't born to be held hostage by your own dream. Now, for this to work, you need 3 gears: system, team, and culture. First, the system. Everything needs to be documented. Everything. How to serve a customer, how to solve a problem, how to close a sale, how to deliver a service. If someone on your team disappeared, today, the system should allow someone else to take over with minimal friction. This is called operational shielding, and this even applies to your personal life. If you leave home today, can your family routine still function? Or does everything depend on your memory, your goodwill, your improvisation? Second gear, team. But not just any team. You need people who are committed to the process, not just to their salary. People who understand that they are building something bigger, that they are there because they believe in it, not just because they need to be. And how do you achieve this? By leading by example. If you arrive late, your team will be late. If you ignore the process, they will too. If you explode over every little problem, they will hide when the pressure is on. Your behavior is the invisible ruler that defines the standard for your business. Third gear, culture. This is the heart of the business. Culture is not a phrase on the wall. Culture is what you tolerate, it is what you allow. It's what you repeat until it becomes the norm. A culture of excellence starts with the small details, with the cleanliness of the environment, with the way you respond to an email, with the care you take in delivering to the customer. If you accept mediocrity, mediocrity becomes the standard. But if you demand the best and deliver the best, then it spreads like wildfire throughout the entire team. And now, a point that no one likes to hear. Discipline is more important than talent. How many people do you know who are brilliant, creative, full of ideas, but who are always broke, late, lost? That's because talent without discipline is wasted. It's like a powerful machine with dirty fuel. It's useless. I would much rather have a mediocre but disciplined man than a lazy genius, because the disciplined mediocre man gets to the finish line. The lazy genius never gets anywhere. And I'll give you a direct example. In my day, we hired workers for specific tasks on the assembly line. You didn't have to be an expert. You had to be consistent, tighten a screw, every day, at the right time, with the right torque. And when done on a large scale, it moved the largest factory on the planet. Now tell me, what screw should you be tightening today but aren't? What simple but vital activity have you been ignoring in the name of distractions? Duh. You know why most people never achieve their fortune? Because they can't stand repetition. They want novelty, adrenaline, excitement. But wealth is the daughter of routine, of process, of constant execution. I built a billion-dollar fortune doing the same things the same way every day, and improving 1% at a time. And when you combine that with a purpose, with a long-term vision, no crisis can stop you. Now, understand one thing. Yes, the world has changed, but the principles remain the same. Technology has evolved, markets are different, but what builds wealth remains intact. You need to produce more than you consume, serve more than is required, automate what is repetitive, eliminate what is useless, and invest what is left over in productive capacity, not vanity. Stop looking for miraculous secrets. They don't exist. What does exist is clarity of decision, consistency of execution, and simplicity of process. If you master that, no one can stop you, no one. Now, let's dive into one of the areas most overlooked by those seeking success: building a productive mindset. Pay attention. It doesn't matter if you have the best product, the best team, or the best investment, if your mind still operates like a disorganized workshop. It all starts in the mind. Everything. In my youth, I learned to distrust complicated thoughts. People who talked too much, who created overly complex theories, were almost always trying to hide their own inefficiency. I never needed fancy words to build a factory. I needed clarity, logic, and action, and so do you. Your brain is the command center of your production, and it will repeat exactly what you feed it. If you fill it with doubts, distractions, bad news, magical promises, what do you think will come out the other side? Garbage in, garbage out. But if you start feeding your mind with productive principles, focus, order, persistence, vision, then what comes out is results, action, construction. And here's a practical tip. Eliminate all sources of information that do not contribute directly to the execution of your goals. Social media, news, useless discussions, comparisons with other people's lives. Cut it out. You need to protect your mind as if it were the engine of your company, because that's what it is. Want a powerful exercise? Every day, before you start work, write down your 3 productive priorities for the day. Just 3, not 5, not 10, 3. Things that, if done, will make your day worthwhile. After that, turn off the noise, close out distractions, get to work. If you do this for 30 days, you will see how much your life can advance without any fancy techniques. Just focus. Another essential pillar of my thinking. The future is built with today's decisions. It seems obvious, but most people live as if they were rehearsing for real life, waiting for the right moment, the right investor, the right motivation. That doesn't exist. The right moment is now, and it is shaped by the decisions you make with what you have, where you are, the way you can. When I set up my first factory, I didn't have everything I needed, but I had what I needed to get started. And every machine I bought, every employee I hired, every process I simplified, everything was done with the clarity that I was building something that didn't yet exist, but was already real in my mind. Production always begins in the imagination, but it only becomes reality through action. And here comes another key principle. It's not enough to imagine, you have to operationalize. Dreams are useless if they don't become structure. Many people have good ideas, but they don't know how to turn them into a system. They want to create something, but they don't master the step-by-step process. They want to grow, but they don't even control their schedule. That's going around in circles. For me, every idea only had value after it became a process. If I couldn't teach, scale, and improve that idea, it wasn't worth my attention, and you should apply the same filter to your life. Anything that can't be taught, improved, and replicated, eliminate it. It's vanity disguised as intelligence. Another common mistake is confusing activity with progress. People who work all day but produce nothing relevant, who answer emails, take phone calls, attend meetings, but end the day further away than when they started. That's noise. And noise in industry is the silent enemy of productivity. Want to eliminate noise? Create indicators. Track them. Measure them. If it can't be measured, it can't be improved. I knew every hour how many cars were coming off the line. I knew how long it took each operator to perform a task. I knew the cost of each screw. This obsession with control freed me, because only those who measure can control, and only those who control can improve. In your life, what are the indicators? How many new contacts do you generate per day? How much productive time do you actually devote to your projects? How much of your money is being reinvested in productive capacity? If you don't know the answers to these questions, you're not managing your life. You're just reacting to it. And remember, productivity is not about working harder. It's about producing more in the same amount of time. This requires operational intelligence. It requires saying no to a lot of things. It requires cutting out what doesn't move the machine. Efficiency isn't hard. Inefficiency is what costs money. So starting today, make a new decision. Think like a producer, not a consumer. Consumers live on impulse, in pursuit of pleasure, in constant distraction. Producers live in execution, in planning, in purpose. While one spends, the other builds. While one complains, the other solves. While one waits, the other is already delivering. Do you want to be remembered as someone who had good intentions, or as someone who delivered results? Now we come to the point where everything ties together, building a legacy, because true wealth doesn't end with you, it continues after you. It transforms into systems, jobs, ideas, impact. That's why I built Ford, not just to sell cars, but to prove that it's possible to generate abundance from simplicity, efficiency, and responsibility. Many people talk about leaving a legacy, but what they really leave behind is confusion, debt, a business tied to the central figure of the founder. That's not a legacy. That's dependency. A true legacy begins when you build something that works without you, something that solves a real problem with trained people, clear processes, defined goals, and a strong culture. When I created the assembly lines, it wasn't out of technical vanity. It was to ensure that the process would work even if I wasn't there. This allowed us to scale, multiply, and grow without losing control. And here's a golden rule. Growing without control is the fastest way to collapse. All expansion needs structure. All freedom needs limits. And every legacy needs a solid foundation. And how do you build that foundation? The answer is brutally simple. You need to become expendable. I know it hurts the ego, but it's the truth. The business needs to run better when you leave than when you arrive. That's the sign that you've created a system, not a fiefdom. That you lead with vision, not attachment. To do this, train people, share knowledge, document every step, delegate clearly, correct accurately, and above all, trust, but demand results. I've never been a nice leader. I've been fair. If a man delivered results, he was valued. If he didn't, he was replaced. The business couldn't stop, because thousands of families depended on that machine running. Today, there may not be thousands of families depending on you. But there is certainly one, yours, and that is reason enough to make it work. You can no longer postpone decisions, run away from conflicts, or push mistakes aside. Your life system, financial, emotional, professional, needs to operate like an efficient factory. Every piece in place. Every energy well-directed. Every decision focused on the long term. And speaking of the long term, understand one thing. Wealth is a crop, not a hunt. You don't run after it, you cultivate it. With discipline, with routine, with patience, and with intelligence. Those who hunt for fortune usually come back empty-handed. But those who plant, those who tend the land, who adjust the soil, who water every day, reap at the right time. And they reap a lot. That's why I never worried about looking rich. I worried about being rich, about generating, scaling, automating. I lived simply, stayed focused, reinvested everything I could. While others tried to show off, I tried to improve. While others were distracted by applause, I concentrated on the gears. And that, my friend, made all the difference. Now I ask you, in what part of your life are you still trying to appear instead of being? In what area are you spending energy to show what you haven't built yet? It's time to change that. It's time to build, not impress. And when you start to really build, something magical happens, respect appears, not because you asked for it, but because you delivered. People respect those who execute. The market respects those who solve problems. Life respects those who honor their commitments with consistency. And then, the money comes. Invitations appear. Doors open. Not by chance, but as a consequence. You no longer need to chase opportunities. You just need to become the kind of person that opportunities seek out. This is done with process, with decision, with execution, and above all with a non-negotiable philosophy. Don't stop until it works, because that's how you build a fortune. With an armored mind, an efficient operation, and an unbreakable will to serve. You already have everything you need. All you have to do is apply it. All you have to do is stop procrastinating. All you have to do is decide that now is the time. And now, at the end of this mentoring session, I want to remind you of something. The 5 decisions we have revealed here are not theories. They are tools. They are at your disposal. And if you apply even one of them consistently, you will already be years ahead of most people. Produce efficiently, pay fairly, standardize clearly, reinvest with vision, serve with excellence. This is my legacy to you. Now it's your turn to turn ideas into productive machines. Sign up and share this video with anyone who wants to build a solid legacy.